What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what moved it and what shorts did. Before getting to any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go up 3.95%, 1414 the low, 1474 the high. A lot of volatility, especially in the second half of the trading day. A lot of this had to do with FOMO and fear associated to Nvidia's earnings, and which kind of came okay. So the key metrics were good, beat on both earnings per share and revenue. Future guidance, that's what somewhat is kind of hit and miss a little bit. So we'll wait and see how the market does play out with that. But aside from that though, just the market seemed very optimistic, and a lot of that could be stemming from how the market's been hit very hard over the last several trading days. So again, that's what resulted in SoFi going up. But no news from SoFi, no SEC filings, nothing along those lines. Even on social media, nothing really coming from Anthony himself. So he seems to be very focused on golf and sports, lacrosse and stuff like that. He hasn't really spoken about SoFi whatsoever in a very long time. So I feel like this is something that actually does need to change soon. And I've kind of brought this up in the past. Nothing really wrong. Anthony is definitely a very smart individual. But like, for instance, if we pull up this, so, or even just generally looking at what happened to Robinhood went up 6.38%. So still outperforming SoFi once again, which in reality, I think that there is a lot more for SoFi to offer rather than Robinhood. That's just me, of course. But look at what even was just tweeted 2 hours ago. So crypto is the future. Here's how we're going to accelerate. So he goes over this, and even just outside of this, he does a lot of good engagement. I get it that Vlad, this might be his personal account, no different than Anthony, but Anthony just seems very, like, if someone looked at this, he doesn't even talk about SoFi whatsoever. So I feel like there is definitely something that needs to be done about that. Not hating on the guy whatsoever, but at the same time, if you're expecting a lot from the stock, you kind of have to look at the CEO themselves. Even though I guess the picture right here has SoFi in the background, but yeah, I hope you guys get my idea. But nonetheless, though, looking at what shorts did today, it does show that they did increase 5.2 million shares, but that's because NASDAQ just uploaded their new report. So essentially, they did actually return roughly around 1.5 million shares. And how I'm getting that is basically by this. So 2 times per month, the NASDAQ does disclose the true amount of shares being shorted. It's always delayed. So as of February the 14th, shorts did have roughly a 132.26 million shares out. And that works out to be 12.29% of the free float. So you can kind of clearly see that here. And then what Ortex does is they take that information, calculate up to the present day. So between January the 31st and February the 14th, there was roughly around 6 million shares that was shorted, more than what was anticipated. So then if you kind of easily calculate that, that's how you get obviously shorts returning 1 million shares. So grand total 12.48% of the free floats being shorted. So if we kind of look back at the chart, that does mean during this period when SoFi was getting somewhat suppressed, there was an additional 6.5 million shares during this time frame that was being increased. So that's obviously explaining why why SoFi was lagging between January or end of January and February the 14th. So let me know your viewpoint on that. Aside from all that fun stuff though, moving over to options, 15 million in calls, 4.18 in puts. 50% of all the options being done today were optimistic in nature, so pretty good to see as far as that goes. And looking at the overall volume, you did have very low, so 18.8 million for total premiums, 35 yesterday, 34 the day prior. So in general, even though you had higher overall volume, you didn't really have that much individuals playing through options. So kind of interesting to see that. And based on the call options that were purchased, you see a consensus for it to be above roughly around that $16 mark, 17 roughly for going into next week. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 13. So a little bit more upside still, but there is a certain level of fear. I don't know if maybe the bears were anticipating a miss on Nvidia earnings, prompting a broad market pullback, or if that's maybe specific to SoFi, I'm not really sure. But these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So some pretty big ones: 1.01, 1.7, 2 million, 3 million. There was a big one as well, 15.5. Similarly, on the dark pool, a lot of big transactions. And for those of you that watched my video yesterday, sometimes if you read between the lines and if you see some big transactions and big buys, that does maybe hint at what might come the following day. So my video yesterday, even though it was kind of a bloodbath, there was a lot of abnormal transactions done after hours, insinuating that today was going to be a good day. Same goes for this. So you have some pretty good buys, and you can tell they're buys based on the previous transactions and the ones after. So ultimately right here, 1437, there was 17.4 million in total premiums, so 1.2 million shares purchased. Also $4.01 million, 8.12, 5.23. So again, if history repeats itself, similar to what happened yesterday, it is fair to assume that maybe some big money is anticipating, and again, a second recovery tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. We do have GDP numbers coming out tomorrow, and the market's going to be also digesting Nvidia's earnings. So again, something to keep in mind. Current forecast right now for GDP is 2.3. So just as well, something to be aware of. And then the following day, so on Friday, you have PCE. So that should really move the market. But with it right now at $14.47, it is trading right below this S1. So 14.49 will be that key pivot. You really want to watch for it to close above tomorrow, and then 13.89 will be that next strong following support, but I don't see that being touched whatsoever. Even if PCE comes in very bad, I don't anticipate this 13.89 to be touched, but what do I know, right? Flip side, 15.45 will be the next strong target / resistance. But aside from all of that fun stuff, there was one new rating that did come out. No price target given, just a buy rating. Jeffries, John, who has a 59% success rating. So as a consensus of all the ratings, $14.31, a 1.11% downside. So still a lot of analysts not really optimistic about SoFi, which is kind of mind-boggling if you think about it. But moving on from all of this, though, looking at this on the actual chart itself, so really holding that 100-day moving average, so this red line right here, that's been kind of the saving grace for the last little bit. The ALMA is at $14.38. So again, another element just to kind of watch. 50-day moving average is at $15.60 right up here. So assuming everything goes according to plan, and then we do have a good recovery as well tomorrow, just watch for 1560 ultimately, which kind of is something, again, another element to watch above that 1545, that pivot point. So I think just SoFi might be in consolidation mode. And interestingly enough, a lot of people did call this, that maybe SoFi for the foreseeable future might just trade within that like $13.50 to $16 range for, let's say, the next 6 months. Similar to what happened with SoFi when it was trading between like that $6 to $8 range. It traded within that range for a good, what was it, like 8 months almost. Sometimes it had occasional breakouts, but always got dragged back down into that set range. That might be SoFi for the foreseeable future, but again, that's kind of a good thing because it does signal that this is the new bottom. Unless something large does happen on a macro standpoint, really prompting a pullback, but definitely it's something to, again, keep in mind. So if you are an options trader, every time you have a volatile stock trading within the set range, that is easy stuff. So let me know your viewpoint on that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Give yourself a shout out if you've been buying, if you've been selling, or what you've been doing. Other than my buy yesterday, I didn't do anything, and I haven't really done any options with SoFi for a while now. So maybe it's time soon. If it does get above, I feel like this, or it gets close to this pivot point, then it'll be a good time to potentially start doing some calls on it and whatever. But until then, I'm just enjoying what I have, enjoying the ride. So don't forget to hit that thumbs up. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some good buy signals on stocks, options, or crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.